Thank you to one of our sponsors, Kingpin Clothing, for sponsoring us. Check the guys out on Instagram. Thank you. Thank you also to Chill Gas Plumbing and Heating. The guys offer a boiler plan from $4.99 a month, operating 365 days a year.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dad Podcast. Today we've got Harry Stewart on. Harry, how are you?
I'm the very best, Marty. Thank you.
Good
You
man.
okay?
I'm good as well, thank you. Yes. Just happy to get you on, get a chat, and again, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people happy to hear what you've got to say. So yeah, thank you for coming on. What I'll do, mate, I'll get you to introduce yourself. Basically, tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, well, my name's Harry Stewart. I own a gym in the centre of Lisburn. We opened it sort of, I suppose, during COVID. We've developed it from there, a personal training studio, and then we opened it up in the last sort of maybe 2 months or so into a proper sort of gym facility, 24-hour access. So that's what I do for a living. That's what I work at. I have been doing that for the last since I was 17. 45 now, so many years, and I help people every day change their lives basically and get fitter and stronger and better. So that's what I do for a living.
Fantastic. And I know, again, knowing you, I know that you're very good at maintaining clients, or keeping clients over a number of years as well. So that speaks obviously a lot about your service.
Yeah, well, I have clients with me 15, 20 years, to be with you, Marty, since I worked even in previous gyms that follow me. And I think it's just to do with looking after people and making sure that they're getting the service that they want. And that's very, very important. But I think that bred into me from a very young age, from working in really, really nice places. I had the pleasure of working in the Culloden Hotel, a 5-star hotel in Hollywood for 13 years as a supervisor, and then as a manager role, so I sort of know what people like and what people want. So it's
Brilliant. It's a high turnover industry, isn't it? You sort of, a lot of people go through a number of people before they get a decent fan base that sticks around. So that says a lot about you, obviously, as a person. So fantastic.
Thank you.
No worries. Yeah. So we'll start into it. Do me a wee favour. Will you tell me a wee bit about your upbringing? You have a bit of a story to tell.
Where do you start, Mark?
A very beginning.
Up to you.
7 pounds 8 ounces, born and right back.
It's who you are, doesn't it? Like for me, as a kid, I'm from a council estate down the Shore Road, York Street in Belfast. It's a loyalist area, and that's where we grew up. That's where we were from. Unfortunately for us, for me and my sister Sarah, we lost our parents at a very young age. I was 7 when my mummy died. She died of cancer, breast cancer, and then about 2 years later, my daddy died of an aneurysm. So we lost our parents at a very young age. So it was tough, It was a bit of a shock to the system. Obviously, your whole world just sort of crumbled down around you. So from a very young age, we have had to be resilient and sort of work very hard to get where we actually are today, even, So we stayed originally with a neighbour who looked after us for a couple of months, but that going to work, because there basically wasn't any room. We lived in small houses, so we then went into the care system, and we moved to a Catholic family on the Ravenhill Road and lived with them for about nearly a year. And we moved from there to Ballysillen, just at the top of the Shankill. When I was schools, basically, to go to school, I went to boys' model school, and that was another transition. So I suppose moving into with Hugh and Carol, who's now what I would call my mum and dad. There are foster parents and then stroke sort of adopted parents, So they're Christian people, and we couldn't have wanted any better, to be honest with you. They were fantastic, So.
Brilliant. And you're talking about there. Did you say you moved 2 different homes after your parents passed?
Yeah. It's sort of. We lived with a neighbour, as I say, and it was sort of like what they call respite. The neighbour really just couldn't cope. So we were moved to Pat and Terry, who were our first set of foster parents, and Pat was from Dublin. And to be honest with you, Marty, we're from a loyalist background, as I say, and it was a bit of a culture shock, to be honest, because Pat was from Dublin. And the first time I'm going, why is she talking funny? Because I'd never really talking from Dublin before.
Is this back in the early 80s, would I be right in saying? So again, it's a bit of a mad time, yeah.
Bit of a culture shock, like you're sort of, are you from here? And they were going, well, we're here, we're from the same country, and we didn't know, as kids, we didn't know what was going on. For freak's sake, Marty, we weren't out. Basically, do you know what I mean? Once you went North Belfast, you stay in North Belfast, you don't really, travel about too much. So, but yeah, to be honest with you, though, Pat and Terry were really lovely people. They were middle class Catholic family. They had a few quid about them, and to be honest, it was a bit of a culture shock for us because we didn't have any money. My parents didn't have much money at all. We were from a sort of underprivileged background, so it was a bit different, So
yeah, you were saying to me there, obviously, I mean, to lose one parent, as you know, I lost my dad at 18. Like that was hard enough, as a young man. But I can't imagine, losing your mum and dad before you're even becoming a young man. You're 9 years old. So how did that affect you personally?
It really did affect me, to be honest, and it affected my sister too. Like you're sort of, as I said, your whole world sort of crashes in front of you, and I suppose a lot of different emotions come on board very quickly as a young sort of man. And my sister was very, very young; she was only a baby. So I suppose a protective mode come on me. A lot of anger, a lot of hurt, a lot of emotion, a lot of crying, a lot of not understanding what was happening, and why this would happen and how could it happen. And to be honest with you, it has built me who I am today to be very resilient as a person. But as a kid, it is very hard to deal with, and it took us a right few years, even when I started in the big school in the boys' model. It was a bit of a culture shock too, because I didn't really know anybody at the school. I was from North Belfast, and not very many people went to boys' model, from the area. So, or my school. So it was a lot of big change, within a very short space of time, being a kid, So it was a lot to deal with, to be honest.
Yeah. You made a great comment. We were talking the other day about your adopted parents. They're like angels walking earth. I thought that was very nice, and the way you said they brought you up, it was lovely to hear that.
Well, for me and for a lot of other people, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I have been given now if it hadn't been for my foster parents. And that's talking from Pat and Harry as well. Pat passed away there. And it really upset me because she was just a lovely woman, and she really took care of us, and she looked after us, and she cared for us. And yeah, they are angels walking from God, because at the end of the day, they're giving kids a chance, that maybe wouldn't have that chance. And me and my sister were very, very lucky to be given the opportunities that we were given in life, because as I said to you as well, we wouldn't be where we are today if it hadn't been for our foster parents. And that's Pat and Terry, and then Hugh and Carl, who are my mummy and daddy now, So I can do nothing else but be thankful for them,
Yeah.
And as an adult now, it's seeing that, as a kid, sometimes you don't realize how lucky you are, especially in this day and age. Kids nowadays just expect it, whereas nothing. So we didn't know what it was like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you owned a car, in our street, Marty, you were rich. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking car. I mean a car.
Yeah, any car, and you got about 6 in the back, 2 in the boot, 1 across the legs.
That's it. It was a wee bit different back then. So.
I remember I grew up in Balmothouse Park, as you know, and we had a crack on wee group of friends, But again, somebody came with a new football back then, a brand new Niter ball or something. You were thinking, wow. And initially you were like, we're not playing the concrete with that ball. That was kind of what you're living with back then. Keep that one in the grass. That's too good, because the one you had in the concrete, you see it on Facebook all the time. You play with a ball like this, you had a great childhood. There's no patches on it. That, you know what I mean? So somebody had a new football in the estate, you're going, wow, our new pair of football boots, you're thinking, oh, what's this here? That's unbelievable,
I remember my daddy, my real daddy, I suppose, my blood daddy. And I remember him, you know, do you remember Kay's catalogue, Marty?
Yes, I do.
Remember at Christmas time, you know, getting a BM big for Christmas. And the way people say, you think it's Christmas. Well, I tell you what, we definitely, you know, thought it was Christmas, you know. Like getting a bike was like, my God, you know, it was unbelievable. And the dad, he would have had to pay it off, you know, like every week or something. And it was just, I suppose it was a bit like, we lived the sort of real life of Shameless. If you ever watch Shameless, you know,
Yes.
you know, I watch it sometimes and laugh to myself because I can relate to it so much, you know, like, you know, there was bars where we were from that actually existed like that, Shameless, you know.
Yeah.
So, like it was busy times, you know, but it was good times too. Like my childhood was good, you know, a lot of really brilliant memories from York Street, you know, collecting for the bonfire, and, you know, going across, we called it the tire factory, and it was over, you know, like over Duncrew Street, and you used to climb over the rails and get the tires out, you know, through the railings, and think you were, you know, this big sort of, you know, fancy person taking tires from the tire factory, and they were wanting us to take them. They were leaving them out the back, you know. But as kids, you thought this was a big adventure, you know. Like it was just nowadays. You look at kids at 8 year old, and if you look at them the wrong way, you know, they would nearly gurn at you or something, you know.
He'd have a
Whereas
2.5-year-old and he's doing that. So he's in the morning, so I'll go down. He just sees me. He's like, he just screams at me. And I'm like, I don't even know what I've done here. But he probably knows I'm coming to the courtroom. Give him a big kiss and hug, probably. But he just, yeah, so 2.5. I'm getting that. They're around 8, you know.
my childhood, like I remember going out when we were, you know, like sort of the summertime coming up to July, and you were collecting for the boney, and you run out the door. My dad used to say, "You come back when the lights come on."
Yeah.
The lights come on, that means the street lights, you know.
Yeah.
That time in the summer, the street lights didn't come on to 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So you were all day, you maybe got hungry, and you went in for like something to eat, and the dad would have sort of, you know, give you what's called a jam. Yeah. So he got a plain bread out, you know, like bread, butter and jam on it. He says, right, there's your lunch, away you go, get out and play, you know.
You're out the door like this here, running out.
Aye, you were out the door because you didn't want to miss out to see where your mates were, you know. And you know, as I say, when the lights come on, that's when you went back in the house again. You know, like it was just, you know, nowadays, you know, kids are locked away nearly, you know, and what I'm saying is it didn't do us any harm, you know.
Yeah. I do you know what's mad, Harry? Like I read a cracking post a number of years ago, and it was like my generation, like it was like something like 80 and onwards was like the last generation to climb a tree and stuff like that, you know. Basically, it was the last generation before they came in. Like I remember I got one of them at 11 years old, and I remember I had a £5 top up on it, and you literally remember it was like 5 or 10p to send a text.
Yeah.
When you ran out of credit, it was basically obsolete, like, you know. But I remember that, like, not having that in my life. Literally, the internet was. Do you remember? Was it NTL? You used to dial into your TV, and you had the keyboard. Yes. I was that for that generation. I remember not having any of that stuff. You know, the Atari and stuff like that. So, you know, and we were the lights when the lights come on, or you heard your mum shout, "Martin, dinner!" And you're like, back in 10 minutes, lads, you're in, bang, 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 indigestion straight out again. You know, it was a great time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great time, you know, like for me and for us, like we didn't know what computers were, you know, like you know, there just wasn't them about at that time. You know, you maybe went to the Grove Leisure Centre and that's where you get washed. Do you know what I mean? So where you went to the Grove every day and had a swim in the floats, and the Grove was on York Street. It's not where it is now. It's actually it used to be on closer to the end of the town, and used to go across every day and pay 50p in. But I didn't even have to pay because my auntie Georgie used to work in the Grove, so we used to get in. You know what I mean? And she used to go in and say, "Away you in and get washed." You know what I mean? And used to be jars and looking at the sort of half-empty sort of shower gels, because you never had shower gel, you know. Yeah. You end up stinking a Head and Shoulders or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But
and that stuff as well, you got it in your eye back then. It was it's not like I was now tear free. Your eye was up like a big ball.
That's how you get washed, you know. And you used to go, you know, in an old pair of shorts and an old towel, and you used to get the towel and roll it up and put the shorts and towel and roll the towel up and put it under your arm the way you went. You know, there was no fancy bags or anything like, or you know.
different times. Plastic bag if you were lucky.
That's it. That's it.
I remember that. No, fantastic. So yes, we were chatting as well. You became a dad quite young yourself, well, a young man. So fast forward sort of between 18 to 21, the lead up to becoming a fella.
Yeah, I mean, sort of between in my teens, I was very much into sport, very much into martial arts and boxing, and that really was my life, to be honest with you, from 12-year-old right through to probably 19 or 20. It's all I focused on. So I was a bit of a late starter with the women. So it was, to be honest.
I didn't think you were going to repeat that, so then.
But I was bored and a late starter. And then when I found out what the birds and the bees meant, I was like, is this what this means? You know, just like incredible, you know, and started dating. And my first wife, lovely girl, me and her started going together, I think, when we were 20. And very soon after that, she got pregnant, you know. I was in my late 20s coming into 21. And all of a sudden then, you know, we were looking at, I remember, I'll never forget the day, to be honest with you, Marty, we were down in Newcastle. And she said to me on the way down in the car, and we were all with her mates, we were going out for the day. And she says, I don't feel too well. And I says, right, okay. I hadn't a clue. I didn't know what. I said, well, why didn't you stay in the house? You know, I didn't have a clue. And she says, no, I don't think you know what I mean. I says, what are you talking about? She says, well, my period. In a way, I says, well, what does that mean? I didn't know. Are you stupid? I says, I really don't know what you mean. I'm sorry, but I don't know what you mean. She says, I think I may be pregnant. I was like, the fucking blood drained from me. I was like sitting there going, are you serious?
On the way to Newcastle too? So you're literally having to go and have your day out, basically. Like, what's going on?
And what we done was we drove into Newcastle and I says, right, we need to go to a chemist to get a test. So we went to a chemist and bought a test, and she went into a wee sort of community place in the centre of Newcastle. And she came out and she handed me the thing, and I looked at her and I looked at the test, and it had a blue line on it. And I was like, well, does that mean you're pregnant or you're not? What does it mean? She says, I'm pregnant. The first thing came into my head, what am I going to tell my mom? You know? and then the one, what are we going to tell your dad? Because I was scared. So be it, you know.
Sit with the head down, you know.
Me, it was a quiet journey home from Newcastle that day, Marty, you know. But it's still in front of me. It's so clear. Like, it's 24 years ago, but it just, you know. And then shortly after that, my big son came along a year later, Jordan. So it was 21 kids, you know.
Yeah, you were telling me as well, you know, at that age, I was telling you about me at 21, you know, I was working next to a 40-hour contract initially. I think it was 20-hour because I messed about. Then I got down to a 4-hour, which was a Sunday, 1 to 5. So they literally put me on the shittest shift ever. I think they were trying to get rid of me, basically. And madly, long story short, a couple of years later, turned it around and ended up near running the store, senior sales of locking up closing. So miraculous turnaround. But anyway, at 21, I couldn't picture it, you know, hearing that news, you're going to be a dad. And even financially, the whole lot, I was nowhere near ready. Wasn't even a man, you know. So commendable, you know. You were telling me, you know, like you went from that to having a house and you had a couple of new cars and things like that. So as a 21-year-old, you're right bang in it.
Yeah, well, as a kid, sort of, I had, you know, I've always had this undesirable drive to do well, and what I'm that is, I hate getting beat at anything. Like, seeing sport, I was always extremely competitive in sport. So I always had that drive to always be the best. And I know that sounds a lot of times, and some people didn't like you for it. But see, to be honest with you, I didn't care. Do you know what I mean? Because I knew what I wanted. So when Miriam got pregnant, I didn't run away from it. Do you know what I mean? I was that person, well, I'm gonna have to marry you. I wanna marry you, I wanna look after you, you know.
Do you think that came from your childhood, actually? Just on that note, because you had to be so resilient and tough at that age that you thought, I'll tackle this head on because you've been through such a trauma, you know?
Yeah, I think so, Marty. I think so. I mean, I wasn't gonna. I could see that my wife. My wife to be at that. You know, my girlfriend at that time, Miriam, who became my wife, she was scared, and so was I. But I wasn't gonna turn my back on her. Do you know what I mean? So says, look, it's okay. You know, I sort of had a bit about myself, and I was like, look, it's okay. I'm not running away. We'll sort it out. But Marty, I was a kid. You know what I mean? I was a kid. You know, and my mum and dad at the time, they were Christian people. They're lovely people, my mum and dad, you know, and my mum and dad just supported me and says, look, you have to do the right thing here, and you have to look after your own. And it always stuck with me because they looked after me, you know. So as a kid, very young, I just did whatever it took me to get by. You know, like as I say now, I do have a bit of a colourful past. You know, so what? Do you know what I mean? When I was 20, I'm a different man. I'm 45 now, and yes, I am a different man to what I was even when I was 30, even there was some 20. But I spoke to you well. I was scared when I was 21, when you know, I was frightened. I didn't know what was happening, you know, but all I knew is you need to work hard, you need to provide for your family, and you need to have a roof over your head so that these kids are okay, you know. So I was prepared to work my arse off, and I did. I was 60, 70-hour weeks, Marty. You know, like, it was tough. I was working in a wee health club in Hollywood, and then I moved from there to the Culloden Hotel, and I worked there 40 hours a week, and then I also done the doormate, and I done the door in bad places, like, you know. But you just did whatever it took, you know. And I was very blessed and fortunate. I had a brand new house in Lyndhurst at the top of the Shankill, and I had 2 brand new cars in the drive. But that didn't come by sitting in your hole doing nothing, mate. You had to work for it.
100%. As you said, 70-hour weeks, sir. And you were telling me as well, like on that note, you know, you had another baby not so long after.
That's right.
So again, as you said, you've got that responsibility. Firstly, the house, the cars. Now you have a baby and you have another one the way. What was that like mentally for you?
It was really tough. It was really, you know, but the way I looked at it as a man, you know, as a bit naive as a kid, you know, I think as a daddy, you have to grow into being a daddy as well. I mean, I was only a youngster myself. I was 20-year-old, you know, and I was sort of, although that I was a grafter and I wasn't afraid to work hard, I still had an awful lot to learn, you know, and I look at it now and go, yes, I could have changed this and I could have changed that and I should have done this. But you know what? I've done the best I could with what I had. And a lot of times I think a pressure would be put on the man a wee bit more for a job to provide, you know. But at the same time, I did find it tough because I was still getting up. We still had a child. She was pregnant again. I was getting up during the night and doing the feeds. I was changing napping. And then I was having to go and working stuff and things like that there. And I appreciate and understand that there's a lot of ladies out there who do the exact same and don't have that support. But I wasn't one of those people who didn't help out.
Yeah.
You know, part of my job to help out with my kids as well. You know, so it was tough. It was physically tough as well, mentally tough. I was doing a lot of heavy training at the time. I was doing a lot of powerlifting and strongman. So, and you know, obviously from that angle of things, it took a lot out of your body too. So you sort of had to just toughen up and get on with it. You know what I mean? There's a lot to do that and then to run away. As you know, now in saying that, for me, I separated from my first wife probably within about 4 years because Marty, I was doing the door. I was running about. I was making a few quid for myself. You know, my priorities weren't right, mate, to be honest with you. You know, and sometimes I think if I was talking to younger boys or younger men now who have children, you need to sort your priorities out a wee bit. You need to make sure that your kids are at the forefront, you know.
And that's the beauty of something like this, you know. And again, I was saying to you off camera, you know, I think your journey's fantastic and how you've obviously turned out. It, for me, if somebody does watch this as a young man, if it maybe can relate to you in any way, you've turned out really well. I know it myself, I know you personally, so it's a bit of inspiration for somebody. You know, I do, as I said to you before, I know a lot of young lads that even play my football team, and I always keep an eye on them. And you just see they have there's that little chance that they could go one way or the other, you know, and you can just see it. And but again, hearing somebody like yourself say that, you know, you got to your mid-20s and now you're sort of 20 years on, you're thinking, could have been different. But again, you know, that's the way it is, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, we'll tell you something, Marty, I've done my fair share of partying.
Yeah.
And I'm not honest to God, you know, you say, have you lived a rock and roll lifestyle? Yeah, I have definitely lived the rock and roll lifestyle, mate. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't care what anybody thinks. At the end of the day, it's my life and I can do what I want with it. But what I'm saying is, I always knew that I had a responsibility to my kids. Now, when my first wife, I paid maintenance every single month without fail. And I paid over above the odds of maintenance all the time. I first married with about 6 black bags. So see what I had in the fancy cars. I got one of my cars. I give her the car. I give her the house and the house. So when she sold it, she got the lot. So I was starting to keep getting 24. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was. So you had your life, you built it, and then I did lose it again. You know, and I had to rebuild it again. So, but that was my choice. You know, so you have your ups and downs. You get bumps in the road all the time. That's life. That's what happens. But the worst thing I think you can do is run away from it. You know, it was my choice to do what I wanted to do, but my priorities weren't right. I'm the first person to say it. Yeah, absolutely. They weren't right. They weren't, you know, but the thing about it was, I thought as a young man providing for my family, as in with the cars and providing the money and providing the house, that was my job. And well, there you go. But it's a wee bit more than that. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what a lot of people get carried away with. Even nowadays, you see, you know, people getting into debt and spending fortunes on their kids that wear designer clothes. That's a load of balls.
Yeah, because here, I'm telling you now, talking about that, Alex, you know, I love my trainers. So obviously my son, I'm going, there's a pair of trainers. My mum came in one day and was like, why has he got so many trainers? Like, because they look good. And she was going, but that's a waste of money, basically. She's like, you know, 1 or 2 pairs max, but he's sitting with 4 or 5 pairs of trainers. And, you know, and then I'm looking at him going, they're too small now. They're too small. They're too small. And you're going, he's only got 2 pairs. Madness. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's a waste of money. And, you know, you said something there that actually clicked in my brain. Me and my partner, Nicky, had a real sort of back and forth about, you know, the provider. And that's what I said to her at the time. You know, we went through a bit of a rough patch because I was in the same mind frame as you. I got this chance with Active I ran with. I was working silly hours, and she came to me on a Sunday and says, how many times do you think you've been home? I think it was the last 2 weeks or something. And I went like, actually, come to think of it, I was like, once or twice with the guy. Says, well, what do you think I'm doing at home? I'm, you know, obviously with a young lad now, but I'm providing here. You know, we've got our chance. I'm working towards this. So I was blind, as you said, that I thought, try and provide. You know, what's the problem? So again, as we've said, we do feel like that is our main role as a provider. But I've learned now, you know, we have the same mentor and things like that, Paul Smith and different things that I've seen. Like, you know, I'm seeing him away 3-4 nights a week, and I'm, well, I can't do that. I told him I need to be home at 5:30 every day, most days. Like I'll probably say, but I'm home at 5:30 because I was getting home at times. Alex was getting a bath, he was going to bed. That was me seeing him. And then I got up on a Saturday with him and I'm going, that's not enough. So now it's 5:30, sometimes 6. We're home, we get dinner together as a family. He maybe gets a wee bath, watch some TV, and he goes to bed. So,
yeah.
Massive, mate. And again, you know, I keep this wee journal. It's called the Mind Journal, and it actually says in it, what's your happy hour every day? And when you think about it, spend time in the sun. So now I make sure you get 1 hour of my time on the dial, in the living room, wherever it may be with me. Majority of nights, just simply because it's 1 hour a day. That's my fun, is literally seeing that wee lad. Yeah, I do see that point, mate. It's different now.
Like for me as a kid, I would have worked all week in the Culloden Hotel. It was a beautiful place to work. A very you know, sort of privileged opportunity that I had, to be honest with you, because again, that built me as a person as well, to sort of show respect to people and how to talk to them and stuff and things like that. But I would have left the Culloden some nights and then would have had to go to, you know, from the Culloden to go to the door. So a typical Wednesday for me was, I would have got up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday morning, went and done the shift to work to 2:30 at the Culloden Hotel. I went home, I got the kids and got them sorted out. Waited on my wife coming home from work, and then I had to went to the gym for an hour or maybe an hour and a half. Came home, got my dinner, and then went straight out to do the door. And I was working at Dexter Dempsey's maybe on a Wednesday night, or Hunter's Bar. And you know, Marty, you know yourself, 25 years ago doing the door was different than it is now. You know, I was putting a stab-proof Kevlar jacket on. Do you know what I mean? Under my shirt, because it was risk, obviously in the middle of the troubles and stuff as well. So when you were going out the door, she was looking at me, and I knew what she was thinking. You know, you be careful, sort of thing. Now, as I say, you were dealing with a lot of bad people, but it was that stress as well of having that too, and you were dealing with it, you know, all the time, and you had to be on the ball all the time. So I was going and working there from 8, maybe to 1:30 in the morning, and getting home at 2, 2:30. Sometimes, as I said, well, it got that bad with doing the door. The risk was bigger. You were watching where you were driving and stuff in case people were following you. It was mad. It was different times, mate. Yeah. So you were ducking and diving all the time. But my leg, as what I thought, I had the blinkers on. Well, I'm earning the dough here. You look after the kids. Do you know what I mean? And you see now, I come home last night with my kids. I got a Chinese for them on the way home, and I had a Chinese as well. And the Glentoran match was, they were playing the Blues. I've football a long time now. I'm from the Shore Road, so I'm a hatchet man, to be honest. I'm a Crusaders fan. But I like Blades as well. Do you know what I mean? So I sat with my wee girl, and she says, Daddy, who's playing tonight? And I says, Glentoran are playing in field. She says, right, come on. We sat and watched the match. We had a Chinese. She sat beside me on the wee table. And you know what, Marty? You could have given me £1,000 and I said, here, take it back. I'm happy enough. Yeah. I'm sitting. To see her face and to see watching me, it was just, you can't pay money for it. No. Do you know what I mean?
You're so right.
And you know, today after this podcast, we're going out, we're taking the kids out. And I look forward to a time that I'm not in my work now. Whereas before, I look forward to my work and I let her look after the kids. Because that was my priority. My priority was making money. Yeah. And you see, obviously you have to make a few pounds to make the wheels of industry turn. But the aspect of everything is my kids. My kids, you know.
That's brilliant, you know. And you were telling me something as well. We were chatting about, you met Marty then. Obviously, you had 2 kids to your previous wife, and you met Marty, and you've got 3 kids.
I've got 3 kids to Marty, yeah. I've got a 14-year-old and twins at 12. We'll do so. You know, it's I about the birds and the bees, Marty, and that was me trying to make my own football team.
You have a 5-a-side team there, to be fair. I mean, one on the rise there, a wee grandson, is it, or grandson? Yeah. Well, you know, so a granddad 45, like, you know. But sure. My mum was the same. I think my mum had Kelly when she was 17. Kelly had kids at 21. My mum was 38, I think, 39. So, yeah, that's what mum was like at the time. What? My granny, I don't think she was 40, you know, it's just kind of going. But again, but no, again, my mum could, again, I learned everything from my mum. In terms of being a father, obviously, well, I'm no dad. Growing up, I was 10, you know, my dad was, me personally, what I have learned is what not to do, you know, in terms of being, not in terms of being a dad, but as a person. So, you know, I've kind of watched the way I was brought up, different things, and I've kind of took tips from my mum, and I now put it into trying to do it with my little lad, you know. Nikki, again, as I said in the last podcast, she has a young lad called Jack. He's 11. So she knew what she was doing. So again, I'm in there with the blinkers on. What do you do, you know? And it's just, you know, it's just again a complete roller coaster. But yeah, it's fantastic, and it's the way it is.
You know what I found, Marty, like you know, as I said, you grow into being a daddy. Do you know what I mean? Nobody knows all the right answers. Everybody does things in different ways. Everybody treats life differently, and that's what makes the world go round. You know, so for me, as a young kid, I thought that I was being a good daddy because I was providing, I was earning the dough, and I was sure. Look at the lifestyle you have. You can go out and buy whatever you want to buy. You know, you have a nice car sitting there in the drive. It's not just a normal car; it's a sports car. So what are you girding about? You know, and I was sort of, you fucking about, you've got all this stuff, you know, but that was the hardness in me. And as a kid, you know, I suppose as a kid I was a bit hardened too. I'd have hit you a thing in the club very quick, morning, and then whereas now I ask you a question and then I'll hit you a thing to go. but, like I said, like, you know, my kids, see when I come in, I try to have the best of crack I can. Do you know what I mean? I carry talk and sing and get on like a buck agent because I want my kids to say, my dad's mad, but in a nice, you know what I mean? He's good crack, but I also want them to know that if they ever get into any hassle or any trouble, that they can come to me and ask me for help, because I suppose as well, that's why I'm so health conscious, mate. You know, like as in, I had to look after my body. Now, what do I tell you? As I say, I've done a fair amount of partying. Like, I've done a fair, you know, going out and all-nighters and all the rest of it. But what I'm saying is, I don't smoke that much. I try to look after myself. I try to sort of eat well, and all the rest of it. Now and again, as I say, like, I suppose it's just all a balance. But you try. I think what your kids see is what the way you get on at home and the way I get on is a reflection of how they're going to be.
We talked about this, didn't we? You know, I said, like, one of the most beautiful things. I remember speaking to my sister and saying, listen, I think the best thing that I think about being a dad is, you know, you get the molest little human being, and something that you're not. You know, we're from the same background. You know, you're telling me as well, your kids go to good schools and things like that, where, you know, I'm looking at Nicky's little lad, Jack. He's a straight A student. You know, he's going to have great opportunities, and I'm hoping that obviously with a good home that it will provide that. It's like what I call breaking the mold. You know, there's nothing wrong with being from a council estate, but at the same time, if you can get a little bit better in life, obviously we'll push for that. So that's what I'm trying to do, is break the mold of what way we've grew up. And if Alex and Jack can, let's say, have a better opportunity I had in life, then I feel like, you know, that's winning in a way, you know. So you're doing the same thing. Brilliant.
You know, at the end of the day, like, you have to do what's best you can. And as I say, with me losing my parents at a very young age, I'm very conscious that I want to be around. You know what I mean? Like, say, my mummy died when I was 42, and my daddy died. He was in his 50s. He was a wee bit older than my mum. But like, I'm 45 now, and see, if I'm honest with you, it is in my lad. You know, like, 45 here now. My both parents were, you know, had passed away between sort of 40s and 50s. And it is sort of you have that sort of conscious sort of thought in your head that all the time, you know. So it's important. You're not indestructible. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I know that for myself, even from last year, being very sick, you know, it scared the life out of me, to be honest with you, you know.
And we're going to touch on that. But before we do touch on that, you told me another cracker about walking your kids to school and why you do that. Or no, sorry, not walking your kids, taking your kids to school and why you do that.
As part of my thing, Marty, I take my kids to school every day. And that's something that I do because my daddy took me to school every day. And he also picked me up again. So from a point of view of that, yes, I take my children to school every day, and I collect them from school every day. And that's something that I always do, because my daddy done it for us. And I think it's my time with my kids, because my mommy goes to work early in the mornings and she isn't back there after 5:30, 6 o'clock. So, you know, that wee time every day with my kids, I'm giving them my attention. So, back them from school, I bring them home, make sure they have their dinner, make sure they're okay, start their homeworks, and get them sorted out, and make sure they're happy, and then I go to work, and then my wife's home. And for me, that's extremely important that I do that, because it's given my wee bit of time with my kids every single day. And then at the weekends, I work on a Saturday morning, finish at lunchtime, and then we always have something that we're going to do either on Saturdays together, or Sundays. We'll go out all day on a Sunday. Like, we're going to the cinema tomorrow night, you know. So I think, whereas see, sort of when I was in my 20s, I didn't do anything like that. So see, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, my two older kids, and it makes me feel really bad. I didn't spend enough time with them, and I really didn't, and it did affect our relationship. You know what I mean? You know, my kids are in 20s now, early 20s, and it is hard. It is hard. Like, I have a wee grandchild there, and you have to make sure, you know, that you keep on ball with that too. But you're trying to run a business, trying to look after kids here, and then obviously you've got your kids, you know, your older kids. You know, it's a juggling. It's definitely a balance, you know, of everything. So, but as I say, it all comes down to you. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I have a business to run. I've got money to pay. I've got my bills to pay. You know, so and you have to keep everything turning, because if they're asking you for stuff, well, you have to be able to provide it. So that wee thing there with me is still there, you know, where I provide, you know, but it's learning to have that wee bit of differentiation with, you have to give time for your kids too, you know, because because that's very important. Like now sometimes they'll ask me about doing their homework with them, and I look at them and go, wait till your man comes home. Because I have no clue.
Well, Nicky's good, yeah. I probably be the same. I remember some of my homework answers growing up. I was like, "What's wrong? My mum can be an answer," So that's what I mean. I'd be saying the same when Alex gets help with his mum, and Nicky, I'd say, "I'll give you my 2 pence, but maybe wrong." I'll just say to Alex, "Ask Google there." Hey Google.
I went to a model. You nearly learned to be, have a GCSE and sort of being in the street, you know what I mean, or learning how to, make money out the street. Like it's completely different. It is now. One of our kids maybe comes to me and asks me about algebra, and I'm going, listen, love, I don't really know what you mean. It's out of your like,
ask your mum.
Ask your mom.
Oh, mate. Oh, fantastic. You were touching on COVID there, so we'll go into that basically. Again, before you got COVID, you were saying in the middle of a pandemic, you opened up a studio.
That's right. Yeah,
so,
I was working down in Brian McGee's gym in Belfast, West Belfast. And Brian McGee, lovely guy. He couldn't have been nicer to me. And I only say to you, Marty, he's a gentleman, an absolute gentleman. He looked after me. And I really enjoyed working there. The people were lovely, and you couldn't have wanted a better gym. It's a fantastic gym in West Belfast, like fantastic. But when COVID hit, obviously things shut down, and for me, I was sort of going, what am I going to do here? Because my main business is fitness, and exercise, and even my clients were panicking, But the park was there, and thankfully, and God, I sort of took a step back and went, right, again, I suppose it's that sort of fighting instinct. Right, okay, so you've been hit a dig in the chin here and you're on the canvas, but you need to get up here and you need to keep going. So what do you do? So I started programs in Wallace Park, and I was training away with people and meeting people. And people were glad to come and see, because everybody worried about what was happening with the pandemic, mate, And then one day, I was sitting and I got a phone call from a man that I know very well, and I actually trained him at Culloden. And this goes back to what I talk about with showing people respect and keeping retention of your members and keeping retention of people who you really care for. And this is a client of mine who I trained at Culloden, and I love them. They're lovely people, and their families is really, really, they're lovely. They're lovely. So he phoned me, he says, listen, I've got a building here sitting in the centre of Lisburn. It's a studio. Would you like to come and look at it? And I says, yes. So I went down and he showed me the studio, and I went, this is interesting. We could maybe start something in here. So I said, you know what, go for it.
Yeah.
And I took I agreed sort of terms with him, and I took it on. And, obviously, Marty, you're investing money in something that, you're in the middle of a pandemic and you don't know, but you know what? I just went, go for it. So I spent a good lot of time and a good lot of my effort and money, and opened up the studio and started off, and we worked away at it. And then about 3-4 months later, I sort of thought to myself, you know what? I need to change this again. So it was sort of like, have your vision and what you want to do, but sometimes your plan a wee bit, do you know what I mean? It's like anything in business. If something's maybe just not right, you need to change it to make it right. So, and I do it with people every day, when they're exercising and come to me for advice. But so we changed it into a 24/7 access gym. Me and another good friend of mine, Martin, and
not me, by the way.
So we changed it into a gym, invested more money again, and you know what, mate, it's absolutely flying. We're just mate, we're so blessed. And that we have sort of a niche market, like a sort of type of client that we're looking for. And we talk about this, and you know what I mean. I believe in the universe, and I believe that the law of attraction. I'm a man on it, and if you believe, you receive. If you work hard enough for it, and it's working for us, and it's incredible, to be honest with you.
I am, and I've been in and I've seen it in the gym. Again, as I said, you're a clean freak, so it's always smells lovely and clean and fresh, and it's just a nice premises,
And so the boys keep me going, you cleaning again? I'm like, flipping, they're calling me Mrs. Doubtfire. But as I say, I just like things to be right, you know, and especially we own this place. It's a small, intimate environment, but it's very clean and very sort of clinical. And that's the way we want it for people, because obviously COVID has hit people hard and people are very scared. And you know, it hit my health too. So
right.
For a few off, I said to myself, well, you know what? We're going to open something that's a wee bit different. We're going to open, it's not like maybe the big chain gyms, where they have their place too, but our place here on, you know, a very clinical environment that gets results, you know. So,
you know, you were saying there, obviously, you know, up to the gym middle of pandemic, you kind of, you know, people are probably saying mental, but again, there you go, right decision, it's working. But during the pandemic, and when everything's closed and things like that, then it starts to open up, you get COVID.
That's right, mate. Yeah, it really took the wind out of my sails, Murray, to be honest with you. I was training very hard. Anybody knows me. I always train hard, always work hard. If I put myself into boxing training, I'll do it to 1,000,000%. If I put myself into hard work and heavy lifting, I'll do that, or bodybuilding, or whatever it is. And I was training really well. And then I sort of started to feel a bit sick. And I said to my wife, I'm not feeling overly well. And she says, maybe you have this or COVID. And I was like, I don't know. I just don't feel myself at all. So I took 2 or 3 lateral flow tests and they were all negative.
Yeah.
And I kept work, but I kept saying to myself, I definitely don't feel. I felt toxic. Do you know what I mean? You just know yourself. You're not great. And I sort of got up one morning and I looked at her and she says to me, you don't look well here. And I says, I think I do have this COVID, like, I don't know, but a PCR test, it came back negative. And I was like, what's on here? You know, work. But then I said to myself, you know what, I'm not happy. So I went to hospital. And I was admitted straight away, mate. And I did have COVID. But the problem I had was I have an underlying heart condition called pericardium. And what happened was COVID attacked my system. And unknown to me, over about 10 days, it was attacking me. I sort of knew it was, but it underlying. And what happened was there was a fluid buildup around my heart. And it gives you all the traits of having a heart attack, basically. But it raises your blood pressure, like skyrocket through the roof. So I ended up in the respiratory ward in the Ulster for 7 nights, you know, and I was very, very close to getting tubed and put under, you know, an ICU. But luckily, they gave me all different types of drugs. At one stage, Marty, I had a line in my arm here, a line on this side, and a line in my wrist. And they said to me, look, you might have to get put under here. But thankfully, it didn't, you know. So affected me, but it affected me because I was worried about my kids. I'm worried about my, you know, because like your life, you mate, you know, and I remember that 2 leading cardiologists, because a lot of people think this COVID isn't real, and I'm telling you, I watched 2 people die in the Ulster respiratory ward with COVID. You know, I was extremely sick myself, and I had cardiologists who have been in the game for years telling me, listen, you're not well here. And there's a good chance, you know, and I wasn't well, you know. I am a strong person. And I said to myself, this isn't beating me here. But at the same, I could hardly get out of bed, you know, but I still had that, you know, I was scared for my kids because I kept getting flashbacks about what happened to my dad, you know. So it was tough.
Hearing you say that, you know, you're conscious, obviously, I was going to ask you that, you know, were you thinking yourself, this can't be what beats me here, you know, you're thinking your dad died young, I'm guaranteeing in your head you're saying you're going to outlive your dad, you know, that you literally have to be here for your kids. And I can relate to that, you know, one of my main goals in life is to live past 45. Sounds daft, to see Alex become a man. My dad died at 45. So I'm 34 here next Saturday. And I'm thinking to myself, 34, yeah, you're getting your mid-30s towards the 40s. I look after myself, right enough. But again, in my head, I'm like, I can't die. I have to see that little lad become a man. I have to be here. There's nothing's going to stop that. And hearing you say that, as I said, I can guarantee that's what you were thinking there. No chance. You know, you're getting to see your kids grow old as such, and they can push you
I
about
know.
in a wheelchair and all.
You know, my oldest girl, Courtney, she phoned me and she says, "Dad, are you okay?" And I knew she was worried. And I says, "I'm okay." And the problem is we're being sick and having COVID was you were segregated away. Nobody was allowed in to see you. Do you know what I mean? So the kids really, you know, Marnie, you know, although my Marnie's a staff nurse, my Marnie was very sick with it as well, and she got pneumonia through, you know, COVID pneumonia, and she was in hospital for 4 nights as well. So it was a tough time, you know. It was a fact. The girls were worried, you know, but you know, we tried to shelter the girls, you know, to not let them know the full extent, but at the same time, they knew that mommy and daddy wasn't well, you know, like, and it was a testing time, Marty, but a testing time brings people closer together. If you pull the people in that means something to you closer together, you get through it, you know, and that's what I've learned over the last wee while myself, even, you know, being sick and it shows you how strong you can actually be at times. So sometimes you get a ding in the chin and you get knocked down. It shows you how strong you can be when you get back up again, you know. And a lot of times people think, you know, they're getting it tight and they're not really getting it tight at all. You know, it's just putting priorities in place to achieve it, you know, and that's what we done. And we came together. And I came back fighting even stronger. Marty, I've opened up a business and I'm looking after myself again, you know. That's, you know, there's choices you make in life, and I'd rather, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially, you know, yourself, you get to your 40s, you know, and I play, as you know, play a bit of football. I have done from a 8-year old, but again, I'm getting older. My limbs are getting weaker, so I'm, you know, I'm doing other bits of training now that, you know, that I would never have done before. I was always 2 nights football, 1 day gym, match on Saturday. Where now it's one training, it's 2 days in the gym. There's a walk there somewhere, then again, you know. So yeah, it is. I'm very conscious of myself. I remember even as a young man, I remember being 18 when my dad died. They sent me for scans and stuff, and I was playing football. And I remember I was going, they told me not to play. Don't play football until you get these scans back, 2 or 3 weeks. And I was thinking, are you mad? Not play football? But in my head, I was going to the pitch. I think from about 18 I was about 26. I was thinking to myself, I could drop dead here. You know that early death syndrome or heart death? Thinking, and that was in my head every time. You know, you're thinking, if I push myself too hard here, maybe I'll be a day I'll drop dead. It's mental. Some days I got a real daunting feeling that my health was like going out, fuck, I think I might die there. And that's what the scar on my dad died as a young man. You know, my uncle died as a young man. My granddad died as a young man. You're going, wow. But again, I can't remember always thinking I get to my mid-20s to 30 that I'll start looking after myself properly, you know, in a way. I say properly, like dad and stuff like that, you know, making sure that, you know, you're eating right Monday and Friday as such. And as you said, you know, you can get a wee takeaway if you want here and there. Today's that day.
Chinese or a wee Indian meal and a Friday or Saturday night's hard to beat. Like,
I'm actually going out tonight, you know. I still enjoy drinking. I remember my uncle coming home, my uncle Harry, he's the light of the hope. Harry, funny enough, like yourself, he's the light of the family because he's in his 60s, still kicking on. I'm going to be Uncle Harry here, still running about at 60. He says to me, oh, he's got a Canadian accent. No, he's got a twang now. He's been there 30 odd, maybe 40 years. He's like, I still enjoy a beer. No, he's chatting away, he talks a figure. But he says, I still enjoy a wee beer, you know, but he's had some heart trouble and stuff and he's fine. So, yeah, it's mad. The older you get, you just gotta look after yourself. You said, you can back fighting.
I think, like, you know, and men, you know, touching on that, you know, for men, you know, as a daddy, you know, sometimes men don't talk about their mental health or how they're feeling. You know what I mean? And I work with people all the time who maybe are low in confidence or low in self-esteem. And it's not just ladies, it would be gents as well, you know, but I hide their feelings a wee bit more, you know, whereas even as a kid, as a young man, I always wore my heart on the sleeve. You know, like, see if I had an issue with you, I spoke to you about it and I tried to sort it out. You know, so, and I think nowadays, men need to sort of do the same. You know, sometimes it's okay to talk to other people about it if you are feeling a wee bit vulnerable. You know, if you've got kids, you're looking after kids and you're getting it tight, talk to somebody about it rather than keeping it in, because sometimes what happens is it snowballs And a lot of wee things that maybe didn't annoy you previously, all of a sudden start annoying you more. And then what happens is, and has what happened to me before, definitely without doubt, is that you turn to other things like alcohol, like taking drugs, like partying too much, like distance yourself from your family rather than pulling them to you. Do you know what I mean? Definitely not sitting here and being a hypocrite and saying that I'm perfect by any means. Because as I said, I've had a party lifestyle.
And you've explained that, to be fair, in this, you know.
And I have done my first share of partying. I ran nightclubs in Belfast for 12 years, mate. All nighters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know what it's like. I know what it's like to try to juggle a family life and a work life and a party life.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people sort of skirt around it. And there's nothing wrong with having a few drinks and enjoying yourself and giving yourself time to have a party, but it's learning to come out of it again and go, right, I've got responsibilities here. I need to look after my kids. I need to look after my wife, look after my partner. I need to look after my home, you know. So it's learning to have a good time, but at the same time know where your responsibilities are, you know. And if you're a bit of it hard, then do something about it. Don't hide away from it, you know.
And that's what's brilliant. And weirdly, I was going to ask you for some tips. You've given some crackers, but just before we go, you know, you've explained your life again from you're a young lad. You lost both your parents. As I said to you, I think you've done amazing. You know, you could have went one way or the other. You've went the good way. You have a brilliant family there. You provide for them. Business, you know, it's an inspiration for a lot of people probably that's going to watch this, you know. So anybody in a similar circumstance to yourself, anything you would say to them before we go?
Well, to sort of remember where your priorities are. As I say, as a kid, you know, my priorities were to make money. And I suppose when I done the door in Belfast, you sort of had that certain amount of power and you felt great. You were the big man and you thought you were this and that and the other. And you know, you had a different set of responsibilities that you thought were probably more important at the time. But the main thing that I would say to anybody now is the most important thing in your life is your family. The most important thing in your life that's your gold is your children. If you're blessed, and you will, if people are trying to have kids and you do have them, they're your gold. It's not the money, because at the end of the day, all the kids want is love and cared for, you know. And I'm finding that out even when I have to work extremely hard to make sure that my older two especially know that, because it has affected me from looking at it now.
Yeah.
To looking at it, you know, when I was back in the 20s, where I was running about like friggin' Robin Hood. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas, hey, earn a few quid for yourself, make sure your business is good, make sure you're doing, you know, you're staying, you know, on the straight and narrow. But the most important thing is look after your kids and how they are, and ask them how they are. Are you okay? Do you want anything? Do you need anything? Because that time is precious, and that's what I would say. I see that more and more. I get excited now about spending time with my kids, you know, as in, that sounds a bit nuts, but I work with professional people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what class you're from.
Yeah.
They still work long hours. They still have their priorities within their work, and their kids, they think by sending their kids to all these fancy clubs, like after school clubs, cricket, rugby, tennis, whatever it is to do, they think by paying for all that that's going to make their kids happy. And I look at it sometimes and go, taking your kid and going to a park and swinging them on the swing is making them happy. Yeah. Or actually how they are, or spending a bit of time with them and having a meal with them, is making that, fucking buying them stuff all the time and thinking that's because that's what I done as a kid. I bought her. There's a few quid. Sure, bought you a new motor. There's a new motor sitting there. So you're wearing the best. You were wearing Levi jeans, and well, it was Levi jeans back then. But
Fleurs as well, Wranglers.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that's not important. See, materialism, it means nothing.
Yeah,
nothing. I've strived for my business to do well. I've done extreme. I visualized it. I've seen it. When I walked in that room, I've completely transformed it. I have it now. Does it make a difference? No. I knew I would get it anyway, so I did get it. But the more important thing for me now is to be happy with my kids.
Brilliant, mate.
Without a doubt.
No, That's brilliant, so it is. And again, I think it's been brilliant. That's about an hour actually. We've done really, but I'll tell everybody we've done one before and it was an hour and 25. But we decided to redo it, didn't we? So yeah, that one's quite eventful. We might release it in a few years' time, but not for now.
Hey, Marty, we'll put it down, but you're an absolute legend of a man yourself. Look what you've achieved. You've got that, you've got your kids around you, and as I say, you're a fantastic daddy yourself, and it's a credit to you. And I appreciate you asking me to come on this, so.
Appreciate that. That's very nice coming from yourself, mate. No, I appreciate that. And again, I do think a lot of people will get something from this, mate. So thank you for an hour of your time again. Well, 2.5 hours of your time, actually. Thank you, mate.
Before I go,
yep.
You see if there's anyone who does need a chat,
yeah,
and if you're, and it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, because I thought I was a big hard man and all the rest of it when I was a kid, and suppose now that doesn't come into it, because you see if right, there's always somebody you can talk to, there's always somebody you can relate to, and if I can help anybody from watching this, get in touch with Marty, because it's better to talk to somebody than not talk.
Brilliant. What I'll do then, I'll plug obviously your socials under the YouTube post. I'll post it on the Facebook as well when we load this. So we're live obviously on Tuesday. We're live on Tuesday at 7. So, but I'll plug your socials on that for anybody that wants to take you up on your offer.
100%, no problem.
Listen, enjoy your Saturday. Thank you again for your time, mate. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, mate.
Thanks.
Cheers.